And we are back for another special feature show here to talk about the defense as we head into spring ball here pretty soon. Going through winter workouts and whatnot right now. Excited to be joined by Brian Bergstrom tonight. Coach, how the heck you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. So before we get too far into this, got to thank our sponsors. Take care of the sponsors. First off, we need to thank the Kubota dealers of South Dakota. 11 different dealerships across South Dakota and into Iowa, Northwest Iowa there. Grateful for their sponsorship the last few years. And also grateful for my Kubota, my BX 2680 that helped me blow snow last week and did a great job clearing the driveway out. So very appreciative of that. And if you need something to take care of your lawn, your yard, your farm, whatever it may be, stop into one of those Kubota dealers and they'll get you hooked up with what you need. So thanks, guys. Next up, Northwestern Mutual of Sioux Falls, Chris Schenkel's office. Thank you to that team for their sponsorship. You guys know my story. I've talked about it before. Quentin Hicks, former Jackrabbit, called me up and said, "Hey, how does your life insurance look?" And I said, "Well, it's been a while since I looked at my life insurance, so I should probably do that." Come to realize that my life insurance policy is from before I had kids, before I had a home, at least a really nice home like this, and a couple other things, lots of other life changes. So for me, it was a no-brainer to get my life insurance policy switched around to make sure that my family was taken care of if I ever kicked the bucket. So thanks to the folks at Northwestern Mutual. They also helped me pool up my retirements from my different job moves. So that's been nice to be working with them. So thanks, Quentin. Thanks, Chris, and the team down there in the Sioux Falls office. So thanks for your support, Northwestern Mutual. All right. Now we can talk some ball. Dallas, how the heck are you, buddy?
I am good. Sorry, racing coming in hot here at the end. In my mind, it was at 8, and then I realized it was at 7 all of a sudden, so I raced downstairs and then discovered my kids have been using my little podcast closet here to play Roblox or something. And my headphones aren't working, and I'm having all kinds of problems. But that's my problem, not yours. Good to see you guys.
Right. Sounds good.
We're getting it together here. My life is fine, I promise.
Excellent.
And
Chad, how you been, buddy?
Good. Speaking of Kubota, I finally got to use my snowblower, which was kind of fun. I learned that it's excellent on the concrete, and I'm gonna have to figure out how to run it a little better on the gravel.
Yeah, just those skids.
Yeah. Well, that's what needs to happen. I bought a piece of PVC to put on the front, what they call the shave plate, to try and get it to float above.
Got it.
So it did great. And once I realized I had to put that little spring-loaded thing down, it actually started to turn because I had taken it off and put it back on anyway. Long story.
I don't know what you're talking about, but that's all right. Yeah. So Coach Berge, already the first two comments jumped off.
I was going to yell nerd as he was talking. So thank you, Matt, for backing me up there.
Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Maybe I am a nerd. Okay.
Are welcome back. Everyone's excited you're back. How's it feel to be back in Brookings?
It feels like home. It feels in a lot of ways like I never left. And that's not to say that didn't have an amazing experience as head football coach at Winona State. I learned so much and grew so much and had a ton of highs, ton of lows. And I know that if I'm ever a head coach again, I'll be a better one because of that time. And but I know this, I'm a better assistant coach today. I'm a better coordinator today, having had that experience. And but to answer your original question, it's been great to be back. And the main reason is the people. And that's really what drew me and my family here the first time. And it's what's drew us back this time.
Yeah, I imagine it really took the right opportunity to leave and the right opportunity to, leave the last opportunity. So
yeah, we've been so blessed in the last 20 years of coaching. Like every time we've left somewhere, it's been hard to leave in a good way because where we were was rewarding and there was great people and we felt like we were able to make an impact. And it was incredibly challenging to leave. South Dakota State 3 years ago, and maybe equally challenging to leave Winona State. And it just became so clear throughout this process when all this started to happen that, God just kept opening doors and asking us to walk through. And like I said, so much of it has to do with the people here and the tradition and the culture. And so really, really blessed to be back.
Awesome. Good. So you said right now your family's still in Winona, so you're in Brookings. Have you seen anyone on campus that you were excited to see or anything like that? I know Dan mentioned like on I think it was Nobody's Listening Anyways that like Eric Henderson coming over and people like that just dropping in to say hi, like welcome back. Anyone like that for you?
Yeah, I think so many of the people in the athletic department that I'm not, with every day here in the football office, either reached out before I got here or popped in, or I stopped to see them. And the staff is certainly different than in some ways than the first time I was here, but so much of campus and the administration and Justin and Slade and Barry Dunn and Tammy. I mean, there's just so many, too many to mention. And it was like a pretty cool homecoming.
Awesome. And now you have new neighbors over there too. They weren't there before, the wrestling team, right? So
exactly. They got a shiny new facility. It's pretty nice. And they're doing a great job. Nice. So
yeah.
It's cool one of the nicest in D1, actually. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. And with some of those 2025 recruits you have coming in that are also wrestlers, you're gonna have to keep Han away from them over there.
I know. They got a nice one.
Tampering from within the building. That's a new one.
Yeah, right.
No, they just got to go Nash hot mocker style and do both sports.
Bergie, you're the first coach I've had a chance to talk to face here. Give us a sense, just kind of what's the overall, call it vibe or tone of the coaching staff right now?
If I had to pick one word, I would say positive energy. And we haven't gone through the battles yet as a staff, but I'm just so excited about how this staff has come together and how we're going to work with each other and kind of complement each other. But I mean, we hit the ground running, and it's kind of been adding people as we've gone. Really, from the beginning, it's not like we all got here at the same time. It's been every week a few new pieces have been added, and we're just our priority right away certainly was on our roster and retaining as much as we could, and it moved into recruiting in 2025 in the class, and now we've moved on to 2026 in recruiting and really diving into being able to spend a lot of time with our current team. And that's been the best part that I think our staff would be most excited about, is really getting to know our guys. And it's been great so far. And a couple of short weeks we'll be at spring ball, so we'll really get to know each other then.
Crazy. Dallas, it is kind of funny, mentioning like the staff coming together and all of that. It feels like every day I'm seeing someone new get retweeted, and I, click on their profile and it's, oh, the assistant linebackers coach. Oh, the assistant D-line coach. Cool. Okay, we're finding some guys here. So that's kind of cool. So, Chad, do you want to transition into that and pull up the page? So we're just going to give you a chance just to kind of walk through your defensive staff. And I guess, we have linebacker coach right there, Zane Busikist, right?
Yep. Zane Busikist came from Boise State. He is an up and comer in this profession, and he spent a few years at Boise and a few years before that at Nebraska. And when there were some coaches that left Nebraska to go to Boise, he went with them and actually coached defensive line at Boise, and was the assistant defensive line there, and just did an amazing job in the interview and comes highly recommended. And really got to know him through the process, and just knew he was the right fit, and has been great with our guys and getting to know him, and they've hit the ground running as linebackers. And
he looks really young. How old is he?
I guess I've never asked that. Mid 20s probably.
I suppose you can't ask that, right?
I know he's hired now.
that's-
You can
that's
ask him how.
protected. Yeah, you're right.
I could.
True. Yeah.
Cool.
Logan McCormick spent the last 2 seasons with Coach Christian Smith at Northwestern and Coach David Braun, who's obviously in our league here. He's the head coach there. And before that, he was at James Madison. And but just spent so much time with C9, who I coached with here, and such a great knowledge of the defense that we run, and is the right fit. So it wasn't just that. I think that was the connecting point. But then I think it was very obvious early on in talking to him and interviewing him that he'd be the right fit. And I've been really able to lean on him this first month in terms of our defensive front. And it's like we've worked together for a long time, but we haven't. Just because of the common bond of Christian Smith and our defense and terminology and technique and how it's been taught. So he obviously knows this league, and he knows football at a high level, both in high school, won a number of high school state championships, and then championships at the school up north. But we've fully converted him now.
And he was a very good player. So yeah. Good.
Coach Marcus McClin, our cornerback coach, and he's coming from Wisconsin Whitewater. Him and I actually went against each other when I was head coach at Winona State, and we were in the playoffs against Bemidji. So we played them a couple times that year. He was the defensive coordinator there at the time, and then he also spent time at Duluth. So we went against each other, and has done a great job. Certainly had a really good program at Whitewater where he played, and has been the most recent one that we've hired of the last 3 that I just talked to. Has done a great job already with our corners and forming relationship and teaching them.
Yeah, he when he got announced, I do follow a number of like accounts, Wisconsin recruiting accounts and stuff. There was such an outpouring of happiness for him. I don't know. He must have a very magnetic personality or something, because people seemed genuinely happy that he was getting this opportunity, I guess.
I would agree. Very, very personable. And I think he does a great job of the ability to hold really high standards. But guys love it because there's that relationship. And I think our whole staff does that, but he stands out as being able to connect with a lot of the guys on the team. So assistant defensive line, Coach Thomas was here with over the last year with the staff, and has spent time at Northwest Missouri and Northern Iowa, and has been with the defensive line over the last year, obviously. So he's working hand in hand with Coach McCormick, and has been a great bridge of kind of how things have been going. I have a pretty good idea, but both him and Daishan, who we're going to talk about next, Coach Gales, can give some perspective in what we've been doing over the last couple of years. So Daishan Gales, who I coached when I was here, was a walk-on and earned a scholarship and All-American and had a chance in the league. And he came back about a month ago now, and as assistant DBs. And it's been so cool to see his progress from player to coach. And he's done a great job of because it's not always easy being a guy that people know as their teammate and then becoming a coach. And he's walked that line really well, and but still super relational and really good with technique, but is learning how to be a coach. So and then assistant linebackers, Coach Lawrence is coming from Moorhead State, so played against him in the NSIC as well. He was working with the defensive line there. And but before that, he was actually a teacher and a high school coach in Prior Lake in the Twin Cities. And then before that, he actually played linebacker at UND in Grand Forks. So he's certainly knowledgeable in this league and and comes to us, as a mature coach, and has really worked well with Coach Busikist, and they do well together. Coach Gage actually got a different job, and Coach Lane Peterson got a different job. So I see those two names there.
Okay.
And Coach Pickerel just got here. And
okay.
And
All
Coach
right.
Morris is our strength coach, and then Coach Mojica actually just got a job at UConn, back where he's from.
Oh, back where he's from.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So
Yeah.
he just left this weekend. So
Okay.
And did I see
So-
we got a brand new video coordinator too? Well, the
Yeah,
one
that was
we had
out.
from before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
saw that yesterday.
So we're starting to fill in all the pieces, and trying to remember all the names of of everybody. We've got a lot of new people in the building.
Yeah, and there was a new chief of staff, right? Or is that the term that's being used?
He should be getting here tomorrow, I believe.
Okay.
So I think
Cool.
that'll be a great position, especially for Coach Jackson, but for everybody, just to kind of, there's so many moving pieces and so many parts that you got to organize and coordinate. And I don't think you can do that to the best of your ability as just by yourself as a head coach, especially if you want to be relational and personal with the guys, which Coach Jackson certainly is. And having Coach Rice will be really good for us as a chief of staff.
Yep. And the video coordinator is, I had it right here. Where'd it go? Brock
left
Swanson. Brock
There you go, he
Swanson.
left and came
So
back.
there
I
we
was
go.
trying to find it too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good job.
So
man.
awesome. Yeah, it looks like a great staff that came together. Excited to get to know them a little bit here when we do deeper position previews and stuff in the summer. But
You bet.
Yeah,
You bet. It's
now-
really cool how we were able to, through a combination of people that have coached here and played here, even though everyone, basically the whole staff turned over, you got a group of guys that know South Dakota State, and it's not like this is our first time here either. So we're just going to keep getting better.
I am a bit curious. I guess I was going to chime in quick. This isn't a question, but I've heard already some really good things about. Sorry, the assistant linebackers coach is Jade
Lawrence.
What's his last name? Lawrence. I've already heard from parents with kids that have gone through recruiting recently. Heard unbelievable things about Jade already from a couple people, completely unsolicited. They must have just seen it when he signed, so that was kind of cool. But I'm curious. I mean, there's a handful of names that don't have clear dots connected back to South Dakota State for as much experience as a lot of you guys have. Were you just, from the minute you got an email address, were you just inundated with people, trying to pick up some of those remaining positions, or what did that look like, nationally?
Yeah, yes, there was a ton of interest for all the positions, and it was probably before I got an email address that it all started. But I think you're gonna see that anytime we have an opening. I just think you saw it more because there were so many positions open. I mean, it's very rare that it happens like this. When a coach moves on, many times some coaches go with, but it usually doesn't go down like this. So it was just unique.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right. Do we want to get into position groups and start talking about that?
I'm ready for it.
All right. So folks, you went crazy on my spring ball questions articles that I put out this last week, and just reached out to Coach Bergstrom and said, "Hey, there's a lot of interest. You want to be on?" And he said, "Sure." So kind of get into that a little bit. You want to just talk about the safeties that you're meeting with every day? I know we've had some transfers, some new guys that maybe you didn't know from before, maybe some position changes. What are you thinking?
Yeah, you bet. We'll start with safety. So that's the position that I'm coaching, obviously. So I spend the most time with them and the DBs, but trying to do a good job of developing relationships across the board. And it really helps having a guy like Coach Gales, who I can trust with the safeties for a meeting or practice, and I can allow myself to roam a little bit. But So right now we have 6 safeties that are here currently practicing, and 3 of them were on the squad last year, and 3 of them are new. I'll start with the guys that were here: Dante Johnson, Noah Thompson, and Max Stannard. Dante has the most experience of those guys, but Noah played a significant amount, especially on special teams and certain portions of the season. I know the safety group was certainly veteran and experienced, and I basically know all of them and what is part of their recruitment here. But there was some injuries too with those guys last year, so guys had to step up, and I would say those two safeties in particular probably have the most knowledge of the system coming back. And Max was a freshman, so just getting into his own, but has done a great job this winter. One of them that was on the team but not at safety was Jalen Lee, was at corner, that we're trying at safety, and we told him at the beginning, you got to be able to play both of them. You can't forget how to play corner, and he won't. But we got to see now what he can do, and it was only fair to him and everybody else that we move him now, so he has the winter and the spring, and then a couple transfers: Kobe Bretz from Nebraska, and Graham Eben from Iowa. They've just been so thirsty for the group and relationships and learning, and it feels like, if you didn't know, it feels like they've been here. And and that's because of how welcoming this brotherhood is, but then also how they've presented themselves and just came in and gotten ready to work. So it's been a joy to work with those guys, and excited to keep rolling with them.
Yeah. One note on Jalen Lee, this just reminded me that Flashback Friday you guys are doing on social media. You might not even see it, but that's really cool. I really like that. And having Jalen Lee talk about his tackle for loss, big stop on third down against USD, that was really cool. We know that he's physical, he's a good tackler, so excited to see him at safety. So can you talk a little bit about Kobe Bretz and Graham Eben, like what they bring to the table? Just unknown guys for us. I mean, Dallas is a huge Max Stannard fan also. You should know that now. So but the other guys, we've gotten to see Dante, we've gotten to see Noah, we've gotten to see Jalen a little bit. But what about Kobe and Graham?
So I think the first thing that you notice just seeing them work out and move is that they certainly have a physical presence about them. I'm not surprised at where they were recruited to play out of high school. Certainly Kobe, but you can also tell that they've been well coached. Like they're learning new things, but I think anytime you've been coached by great teachers and mentors, I think it makes it easier to learn the second defense, learn the third defense. Kobe's had a lot of defensive coordinators at Nebraska in his time, and Graham Eben has spent a short time at Iowa, but they have not changed defensive coordinators. But they're both bright and picking up the scheme, and I think Graham's very cerebral and a thinker, and I think Kobe is smart, but I think he's an instinctual player and he looks like a linebacker and moves like a DB, and that's a good thing. So I'll know a lot more once we get the pads on, but it's been super positive to start. This is maybe a little deeper, I don't know. Are your safeties going to be interchangeable again, like they were in your previous stop? Yeah, in an ideal world, yes. That you're able to play them, either just put them to the field and keep them there or into the boundary, or you're able to play them right and left because it doesn't matter. That's how I would love it. And I think when we practice more, I'll be able to tell if they can do that. I think sometimes, and it could be with any position, really. It could be corners that are better into the boundary or to the field. It could be a safety that's better in the box versus a safety that's to the passing strength and goes to the field more. So I'd like to teach it where they have to know both. And then when we get into a game week, we may say, hey, you're always going to the tight end side, or you're always going to the field. But the more they know, the better, because all teams have to do is motion you around, and it's not like we're going to run with every motion. So they can get you in different looks.
Sure. Okay. I don't care where you want to go next. Or Dallas, Chad, do you guys have any more questions about safety?
I didn't have anything particular about safety. You were talking about workouts, and I was curious, in the little bit of time that you've had with everybody, is there anybody that you want to call out that really looks like they've stepped into a leadership role in workouts in the weight room?
I think, one guy that really stands out when I think of that is Joe Ullman at linebacker. And I know that he's got a presence on our defense, and certainly with the linebackers. And he's not a guy that's just going to be yelling and screaming all the time, but he is willing to speak up. And I certainly see that out of him, and I see guys like Kobe Claiborne and Logan Green and Dawson Ruperta and Reese Gerchman at defensive line. I think you maybe have more voices there, more guys that have played a little bit more and been around a little bit. And I think I'm excited for the secondary in particular, because that's probably where there's the most new faces, maybe not to the program, but in different roles. So sometimes leadership is, you're forced into it. And this will be one of the times where I think guys are going to have an opportunity to step up, whether they wanted it or not.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Okay. You want to talk about cornerback then? Go right into that.
Yeah. We'll stay in the back end. So, right now we got Miles Taylor, Aiden Dotterman, Noah St. Juice, Cody Cotton, Jackson Powers, Miles Green, and Abe Hoskins, all that are currently with us, without the freshmen coming in. And when you look at experience, you look at guys like Miles Taylor, Aiden Dotterman, and certainly Abe Hoskins has been with the program for a time now. And it's been really cool to see, because Miles Taylor had some adversity last year, and he's not running from it. We're not running from it. And it's been cool to see. Speaking of leaders, he has done a great job in training, yes, but then when we get into football drills and they do some player-led stuff, it's been fun to see him be in a role that he's really thriving in right now. Now he's got to keep it up, and but he's doing a good job that way, and it's been fun. Aiden Dotterman is a guy that I recruited the first time that I was here, and we recruited, not just me, but was a part of that. And it's so cool to see when you leave a place and then come back 3 years later, there's a lot of growth that goes on. And he's kind of he's a picture of a lot of guys on this team. But it's when I left, he was the young freshman, and he come back now, and all of a sudden he's a veteran. And I know guys in that room look up to those guys. And Miles Green's an interesting one too, because we don't get a ton of early enrollees. So should be in high school still, but graduated early, and is incredibly smooth and athletic, and has done a good job kind of understanding college life for one, and but also football life at the same time. So also fun to see them and the safeties work together, and you can tell that they value the relationship between the rooms. And even though we meet separately in meetings, I'm excited to get our groups together, and because a lot of what we do is together. So I got a hungry group there.
Yeah, I'm excited this year. Like Miles Taylor coming back, that was a nice surprise. We saw him 2 years ago in the national championship game and the playoffs leading up to that, but specifically in the national championship game, played really well against Montana's really good wide receivers. I don't know if Deshaun had some nagging injuries or what, but Miles played a lot in that game, and again, played really well. And then Aiden Dotterman, he has been busting his tail on special teams for the last, it feels like 3 years. I know it hasn't been, maybe it's been 2, but just for a chance now for him to kind of have a chance to elevate into whether it's a starting role or just playing more in the regular defense and stuff. So those are two that stand out to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we haven't seen Noah St. Juste yet. We saw him in some mop up time, I guess, last year, but otherwise haven't seen him.
Yeah, he's a guy with a ton of potential, and he needs to keep working his butt off to stay healthy. Just had some nagging injury things, but he's incredibly gifted and can really move. And I'm excited for spring for him for sure.
Cool.
I mean, my uneducated take on a handful of these positions is we saw over the last couple of years the depth at different positions on the defensive line and specifically at safety, and then at linebacker too, I guess, here and there, where some guys were forced into contributing and starting roles that weren't penciled in to be there, and there was no drop off. So I've always wondered how many more guys are there that could have stepped in and could have taken those reps, right? And could potentially even be a starter, but we just didn't get a chance to see him. And I have a feeling, you named off a couple there at cornerback. I think we're going to see some on defense that could have been in starting roles previously, and we just haven't had a chance to watch them yet.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, so much of that is whether you want to call it great depth or you're playing at a really high level, or sometimes luck, just straight up luck for different guys and different teams. It's not that maybe they couldn't do it. It's just they hadn't had the opportunity yet. And sometimes an opportunity isn't just one day or one game. Sometimes that opportunity, it needs to be a couple weeks of getting the reps with the ones, or an off season of being pushed into a role that's maybe uncomfortable at the time, but it's really the only way you're going to grow. And so I think I can tell you this football team, the guys that chose to stay, there's a chip on their shoulder, and
sure.
And in a good way, in a positive way, in a way where they're going to play the game with a ton of energy and a ton of love for the guy next to them, because this is a tight football team, and they've gone through a lot over the last month and a half. But I can tell you one thing that has grown a ton is their relationships and their dependence on each other.
Cool. Yeah, I'm guessing you haven't seen probably like a ton. You've seen them work out and stuff, but in terms of Carter Nold asking who's the most physical cornerback on the roster, probably can't say right now.
Yeah, I'll wait till we get pads on, because people can certainly look physical when they're not in pads, or not look physical, and you can't be fooled by that. So we'll let the actual padded practice be the judge of that. But I don't care whether you play safety or corner or D-line. I mean, in this defense, you're going to be asked to be in a position to play gaps and to be physical. And we're going to have more physical guys, by their skill set and their traits. But the willingness to be physical is what it's about. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you weigh 180 pounds as a DB, you need to put all 180 into it. If you weigh 250 as a D lineman, you need to put all 250 into it. Like, it's so much of physicality is a decision. It's a decision that you make that you are going to be physical. And that's going to be a big part of our culture that moving forward and has been.
Well, I like that. All right. So as Dallas talked about, there's a lot of guys in the linebacker room that we think are really, really good. Just from when they were recruited, what we've seen them do on special teams, but they haven't had much of a chance to play in base defense yet. Can you walk us through this room? Because this is an exciting room, I think, for what we're going to see.
I agree. I think in a lot of times, I think linebackers maybe get a sneak peek of special teams earlier in their career than maybe some other positions, because of the skill set that they have and the body weight that they have. Not saying that other position groups can't, but certainly a lot of these guys have done that. Will continue to do that, even with an increased role on defense. But they're a tight group. They're the heart of the defense, right in the middle of the defense. I'm probably biased because I played linebacker, but there's something about being integrally involved in the run game and the pass game, smack in the middle. And like I mentioned, the two names that stand out right away, Joe Ullman and Colin McShane, are going to be guys that are going to be challenging each other, challenging the group, and they're similar, but they're different. And I think that helps the group as a whole, and where one's strong, maybe the other's weak. But what's cool is they're comfortable. And I would say this for the group too. And a lot of the defense, they're comfortable being them. They're not trying to be somebody else. They're not trying to be the last linebacker that left here. They're trying to, Joe's trying to be the best version of Joe. And that'll be good enough. If we get the best version of him, that's good enough. So those are going to be a couple of guys that are going to play, key roles. I think Bryce Johnson is a guy that is really respected in that room, from a leadership perspective, a work ethic perspective, a character perspective. And you can just tell that he's a genuine teammate, and a great football player too. Chase Van Tol is a guy that I think when I think of guys that just haven't had maybe their full chance yet, he comes to mind. I mean, he seems like an instinctual playmaker to me. We'll see more as we go. And Bowden Schiller's another guy at that Sam spot, that local linebacker that has shown great signs. And Matt Goring is a transfer from Sioux Falls that has looked impressive in winter workouts with how he moves and his strength, and Joseph Veith and Jack Nash and Kyton Fife are other guys in that room that they're all going to get a chance, guys. It's not, that's a cool thing for them, is that the defense, Coach Jackson and Coach Rogers and I were sitting in a room 7 years ago talking about this defense and designing it. And Coach Jackson ran a version at Idaho. We obviously ran it here with Coach Rogers and Coach Bobbitt, and then we ran it at Winona. And so the players, I think, are excited that the scheme they're not having to learn something totally new. But I think they all feel like it's a fresh start, where, we may have heard some things and seen some things, but it's kind of like starting over in a good way. So that linebacker room's no different.
Mm-hmm. I was really impressed. I went back and looked at my my player of the week tracker, and I guess I didn't notice right away or previously how Bowden Schiller, really, he was on there 3 times, I think, for defense, 2 times for special teams. That just tells me his effort is off the charts. So I'm excited to see what he can do this spring, with any opportunities he has with that local angle again, too.
Yeah, you bet. So, effort is something that we can all control. And that would be a great, when I saw Bowden work out for the first time, you could just tell, like, there's guys that are like high effort guys, and then there's high effort guys. And he's one of those, and he's gifted too, and he's worked hard, but I think he gets every ounce of what he's got inside of him.
Cool. So far, with Jack Nash, another young player, Alaska Gatorade Player of the Year, 3 years ago or something like that, put up some crazy, insane statistics for a high school player. But then he was hurt his senior year. How's he looking in these winter workouts?
He was battling a groin, nothing major, but the last couple weeks, the last couple days, I've seen him move around more. And from what I saw, the first couple days or first week or two when I was here, really intriguing. He's got great length. Like he's longer than you think. And I think as he continues to get more confident, he certainly has ability. And you saw it in what he did in high school. He's got to stay healthy, and then he's got to continue to really become a master of the defense. Because I don't care how much, I don't care what we can do physically if we can't match it with what our brain can process mentally. We just talked today with the defense that clear minds equals fast feet. And then the only way to have a clear mind in football and play the game rather than think the game is to put a bunch of work in and be surrounded by great teachers and great teammates that teach, because football can be a complicated game. There's 22 guys out there. You stop after every play and decide what you're going to do again. Sometimes too complicated that you see guys that should be better physically, but they're slowed down. And so the same is true for Jack as a lot of young guys. It's putting the time in to learn it so you can literally just react when you're out there and play. And it'll be fun to watch him progress.
Hey, that's good stuff. That's gold right there. Thanks, Coach. All right.
I was just going to ask quick, and maybe it's a little too soon to say, but as we move into spring ball, who's looking like the guy that for spring ball at least would be the Mike linebacker to run that portion of the defense?
If I had to pick one today, I'd say Joe Ullman's probably the projected guy there. But we need Joe to know Will linebacker, and Cullen McShane needs to know Mike and Will. The more crossover you can have of those guys that can play Mike or Will, the better you can just get your best players on the field. And that's our task as coaches, is to get the best 11 on the field. So that may be a guy knowing two positions. It may be a guy that's like a hybrid. I saw a comment about Isaiah Stahlberg, who I coached here the first time, and we coached, and he was able to play safety and Sam linebacker and nickel, and he even played he
played football player,
like a stand up on the line of scrimmage, and he's just a ball player. And I don't think you want to start guys like that. Like when they're young, they need to master one thing, like a thing, know what to do, how to do it, why we do it. And then they progress into learning what's going on around them. And when you do that, then you can take a safety and teach them Sam linebacker. Or you can take a Jalen Lee and say, don't forget corner, but you're going to master safety now too. And the more you can do that, the more you get the best players on the field. Because it would be a shame that the next best player that we should have on the field doesn't know that position. So it can't happen with everybody at all positions, but you want to do it as much as possible. And I see it happening at linebacker for sure.
Cool. Hey, yes, Brock, thanks for the question. Another welcome back. He did talk about Jackson Powers starting in the cornerback room. So has that position flexibility potentially also. Starting in the cornerback room.
You bet. Jackson's another guy that we talked about, transfer from the University of Minnesota. And he's a guy that may be a safety in time. We just believe, and it's easier to move outside in and top down. It's easier to for him to kind of get accustomed to South Dakota State and see if he can do it physically at corner and speed wise, and then be able to move into safety or take a safety and move him to linebacker rather than going the other way. So, he's a guy that we'll learn a lot more about, and another guy, speaking of corners, that we will learn a lot more about is Cody Cotton. I don't know that there's anybody faster on the team than Cody. So it's like we said, it's putting it together now with the mental side and then the fluidity side and seeing how fast we can play the game. So those are a couple other corners I know we started with them.
Yeah. Did you overlap with Cody at all when he was at Upper Iowa? Did you ever see him? No.
I'm sure I did. We did play when I was at Winona. We played Upper Iowa my first 2 years. So he was probably on the team. He was probably a freshman, like the first year we played. And I remembered him in recruiting. And now that you say that, I'm pretty sure he was. And then he came here the next year. So.
Yep. Yeah, he had a really strong season there at Upper Iowa and chose to come up. So it'll be fun to see. Because he was hurt last fall too, I think. So missed part of at least the fall season and whatnot. So yeah. All right. The chain gang. A lot of, like you talked about, this group does return a lot of talent that has played a fair amount. So walk us through the chain gang.
Yeah, I think that's certainly where we feel the most veteran. And I could tell that, like, priority number one a month ago when I got here was to meet with every defensive guy. And when I met with the defensive line, I just felt like a maturity, a confidence, a swagger in a good way, an understanding of what playing tough defense means and what team understanding, focus, and finish really is. And I think they will be a great leader on this defense from that perspective. And it all starts up front. And it's been I always say O linemen and D linemen have the most fun on the football team too, just in terms of their relationships and how they joke around. Like, so it's been fun to get to know them. But starting at defensive end, some of these guys, kind of what we were talking about, they're going to need to play both on the outside and the inside, especially in spring ball. You got different sub packages, whether you're going after the passer, you're playing run defense, but some of it's a rotation thing and a depth thing. And let's be honest, this offseason, this spring, we're going to get some more transfers just by the nature of what's happened here. Probably more this year than in future years. And because some of our positions aren't as deep yet, some guys are going to be able to play more than one position, which can be positive for them. But, looking at our defensive lines, kind of starting with some of the inside guys, Kobe Claiborne and Logan Green, and Aaron Wolfkale, Polston. Those are guys that have been around the block here that have played snaps, that have done a great job. And their challenge is to keep doing that, stay healthy, and then push everybody else up to their level. Jace Syfor is a guy that we see a ton of potential in, and a guy that I think we're going to see a whole new role for this year. And he can really move and bend, which is certainly positive. And then you got Mac Mueller and Rhett Schaefer and Max Elrod to transfer, Brody Taggart to transfer, and then Max Chapman, who's coming off of an injury. Those guys are going to see some time on the inside. Some of those guys will be on the outside as well, as we get into spring ball, and a couple of guys on the edge that stand out. Reese Kirchman and Dawson Raperta, certainly, and Sam Watts and Blake Leiferman, young guys, and Nick Wells is coming off of an injury, so we'll be working him back in slow. And but a group that's built on each other, certainly, because I don't know that any group really relies on. I think we all rely on each other, but there's something about the D line, hence the name Chain Gang, that they rely on each other and do it for each other. And we will go as they go. And just super excited for them to be leading the charge.
Yeah. Andy Luth asked a question here. Are you planning to continue to sub and rotate a ton of guys like years past on the Chain Gang? I mean, that was always fun to see when we'd trot out 4 guys and there was very little drop off in quality of play. So
yes, we
instrumental in our
we believed in it then, we believe in it now. That is the most you forget how much energy it takes to push against big offensive linemen all day, and you have to be fresh. Could a guy go longer than the rotation says in the first quarter? You bet he could. He works hard for great conditioning, but the reality is we need to play our best in the fourth quarter. So in order to do that, sometimes you need to save a few reps in the first and the second and the third. And I would argue at all positions, it's maybe more obvious at defensive line because we rotate them together more. But yeah, we'll keep doing that. We've got great depth there, and we'll keep that up. Yeah.
So with that, you have the 3 guys at defensive tackle that have a lot of experience, the 2 ends with a lot of experience. Great, very good players. What do you need to see from this next group of guys, the younger guys that we haven't seen yet on the field? How can they maximize this spring for their own benefit and the team's benefit?
Yeah, you bet. I think, it starts with the way that they practice and they prepare, and they got to come every day with energy, effort, and intent. They got to learn from the guys that have been around the block a little bit. Like all position groups need to do that. But they need to watch what has been done. But here's the deal: they're not going to get the best out of themselves if they sit back and say, "Well, Logan's had a lot of experience, or Kobe, or Reese, or Dot." Like, no, their job is to go win the job. Yep. And it's the guys that maybe have had a higher role on the depth chart. It's their job to run away from the guys behind them on the depth chart. And it's our job as coaches to bring in recruits that are better than the guys we have on the team. And we tell them that, and it's their job to not let it happen. And what that does is it creates a competitive environment. And then everybody's level rises. When you compete, the bottom, the ceiling goes up, but so does the floor. And when we do that, we'll be the best team that we can be. So they got to attack every practice. They got to learn from the guys around them. But they can't have any other attitude than they're out there to win the job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the portal right away. We do know that there's some offers out for guys along the defense line. I know you can't talk about that, but you can talk about the 2025s that came in, and we had Coach Jackson on that. You have some exciting guys that are coming in next fall, right? During August, joining the program.
You bet.
Actually, hey Matt, real quick, before we go to the 25s, can I go back to one thing that he started to touch on there?
Yeah, of course. Yep. Sorry.
So no, that's fine. So talking about all the transfers coming in, we know it's a larger number just based on the fact that the roster, we lost a handful of guys. And also there's going to be a sizable number available this after spring ball due to roster reductions and things like that. So within your sphere, within the defense, what steps do you take to manage team culture with having more transfers than we're typically used to?
Mm-hmm.
Like how are you aware of that? What do you do?
That is a great question, because I think in a normal year, and we'll see what normal becomes over the next 5-10 years in college athletics, because you're going to see more movement everywhere just by the nature of rules. But I think the team culture becomes an even higher priority, and I think you handle that. It becomes an even more important filter you put recruits through, whether that's a high school student athlete or a transfer, and that you care about not only how they play, but how they live and what kind of person they're going to be in the locker room, because there's a lot of good players out there. But they're not all a great fit for South Dakota State in our culture. And can you take chances on a few guys here or there and the culture can help them adapt? Yeah, you can. But you don't want to make it a habit of doing that. So that's a filter that we're going to put everybody through. So I think that becomes a greater priority. And I think education within the team and an opportunity to understand our culture and what does brotherhood mean, and what is last play, and what is 1-0, and you do that through talking about it. You do that through practicing it. You do it through calling it out and not permitting it when you see behavior that's outside those lines. So I think it's I think culture is thought of like as a buzzword for people that don't know how to instill it and don't know how to build it. Because people that do know how to instill it and build it, they know how important it is. So I think it just becomes more important in our locker room and in our staff and what we talk about and what we do and what we don't allow to happen. And but you're right. When more people go in and out, you have a greater likelihood of them not understanding what it means to be a Jackrabbit. And that's what's so cool about getting about half of our staff at least that's been here or played here.
Yep.
Bergie, you have no idea how comforting it is to all of us to hear someone throw out Stigisms. So thank you for that.
You bet.
It's just soothing. Everybody's okay now.
I watched it in Matt's eyes and in Dallas's when you said what last play mean? What's 1-0 mean? And we all went like, yeah, feed me more of that. So
there we go.
I love to hear
and it's still, guys, we in the first team meeting that we had with a bunch of us here, Coach Jackson talked about some of those pieces and we'll continue to. So it's not just a thing of the past that I'm bringing up. It's a thing of the past that's still here. And we'll build around that and we'll change with the times and we'll adapt. And there's ways to keep the tradition, but be in 2025 and understand what it takes to win now. And I think we got a great thing going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Speaking just a bit about changing with the times, how crazy is it how much change has happened at the FCS level since you left, went over to Winona and come back? Because things are a lot different, right? I mean, it's not even quite the same.
Yeah, it's crazy how FCS has changed, how recruiting rules have changed, how certainly the transfer, you can always transfer, but just how that works now, and name, image, and likeness, and collectives, and I remember talking about it in as if it was in the distant way in the future when I was here the first time. This paying guy, like having guys being able to being paid for their name, their image, their likeness, and how do you do that, and what is a collective? And I'll tell you this, I thought it was more than 3 years away at the time, but it's
Right.
here now, and you can complain about it and get worse, or you can adapt and celebrate it and say, this is how we're gonna be us. And I think this gives us an opportunity to even stand out even more, to do it the right way, to build on the culture that we've had, but still care about being transformational as opposed to transactional. Because I think so much of our culture in college athletics and football now is very transactional. You give me this, I pay you this. You give me that, I'll do this. And there's some of that that's necessary. But I think if in your heart, and I think this staff is going to do what's been done for many years here, that we're doing it to help these guys be the best they can be in their life and transform them. You look different than some other FCS programs that are all about the transaction. And that's why we're going to keep winning.
That's awesome. Love it. That's good. Good questions, guys. So defensive ends, just getting back to that really quick. We have Daniel Bradley, Liam Shaw, Luke Krempus, and Maverick LeBrun coming in. 3 or 4 very talented pass rushers. I think I tweeted out that they combined for almost 45 sacks or something like that this senior year. Can you just touch on these 4 just a little bit? Because this may be a spot where there's an opportunity. We don't want to, in my opinion, would love to redshirt every freshman, right? Like that's Dallas. You talk about this all the time, being in the trenches, playing. But we've seen it in the past where we've had freshman defensive linemen who have played for SDSU. Talk about these 4 just a little bit.
Yeah, you bet. And I think the rule changes within the last, whatever it is, 5-8 years and at FCS, where you can play in some games, has really helped to kind of test the waters, playing 4 games and see if you're ready to not use the red shirt, see what's best. And so I think that's helped it. And then, to be honest, guys, I think you're going to see it more and more as college football changes, of young guys playing because you don't know how long people are going to be somewhere. So I think you're going to see it more. But certainly these guys, Daniel Bradley is he is a steal in our opinion, and very is a natural pass rusher, but great length and just awesome to get to know, and his mom on the official visit, just an amazing person. That's where it starts. But and Liam Shaw has had a unique recruiting story, but super excited about him and his ability and to be disruptive. Both those guys, I think, have a great chance to make a role for themselves. We'll see what that turns into. And then 2 more local guys with Maverick and Luke. Talk about great length and motor, and maybe what you're looking for in a defensive end, especially like a local. How we've done such a great job over so many years of finding great local talent. When I say local, I don't mean necessarily like it has to be in Brookings, but like in the adjacent states, and a couple South Dakota guys there that would be exciting to see their career go.
Yeah, awesome. As Jim Poppin says here, thank you so much for being with us tonight and going through the defense, going through your staff, telling your story. It's your first time on, but we've talked, obviously did the position previews and stuff when you were here before. So yeah, Dallas, Chad, anything else for Coach?
I do not. I think we covered everything. That was, like I said, it's always good to hear a familiar voice and exciting to hear a little bit more on some of these players, and can't wait to hear more coming out of spring ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Thank
is
you very
soon.
much, Coach. Yeah.
I
Chad,
appreciate your guys' time and just know that we as a staff, I'm not just speaking for me. We appreciate what you guys do, and I think our fan base. That's another thing that's grown. Certainly, winning at a national level helps, but you guys help that happen by spreading. There's so many cool stories in this football team. I mean, you got 118, and the roster's full, 118 guys that are not just football guys, but we got some awesome young men on this team that you guys help tell that story and help people know that they're more than just what they do out on the field. That's what they do, but who they are is something even better. So you guys help that. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. And with that, everyone, stop in, to our sponsors, whether it's Cubbies or the bookstore, Culver's or Northwestern Mutual or Kubota, whatever it may be, stop in. And with that, go big, go blue, go
Jacks.
Jags.
Go Jacks.